I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, I'm excited to introduce you to a very creative and a very talented author. His name is Ken Jackson, and he has written a riveting novel. It is called The Genesis Plan, the atLan Chronicles I. Set in the early Bronze Age, this intriguing story follows Ishka the Healer, who returns to her community with a secret son, setting off a tale of mystery, leadership, and a clash of worlds. We're delighted to have this talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank our team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his wonderful book. The links are below this interview. Ken, great to see you here today.
Good. I'm glad to have this opportunity.
Glad to have you on the show. You've got a background in English and theology and history. So I got to imagine that these disciplines influenced the creation of the Genesis plan.
Yes, very much so.
Tell us a little bit about your inspiration to create this world, this story that you tell.
Well, I'm telling a story on one level that has some deeper sub themes running through it, and it it deals with speculation. Um the story on one level is simply a story of a people, of a quest for justice and redemption, but it has some deeper things to it, and I tried to put that together in the package. There's some things in beneath the story that people, if they look for, can see.
Absolutely. Let's give the folks at home the big picture. Briefly, let's tell them what the Genesis plan is about.
Okay, the overview is, as you mentioned, it takes place in the early Bronze Age in a small forest village that lives in a state of self-imposed isolation. Ishka is the healer, is one of the people in this village, and the book centers on her character. She should also be the spirit interpreter for the village, but that role has been taken from her unfairly by the leader of the village, and she seeks to get it back. That's one of her goals. Uh, Her other goal, the long term goal for her, is actually to become a leader of the village itself, where she can change the restrictions that have been imposed on the village, bring her people outward, and lead her people to a better life is what she's looking for. So that's Ishka's story.
Yep. And Ishka's son is a key figure, born of two worlds, correct? Tell us a little bit about his dual
Okay,
heritage and what it means to the story.
okay. I've introduced the second part of the story, and that is the arrival of the people who call themselves the atLan. Uh, mm, this may be seen as a introduction of a science fiction thing. I prefer to look at it more as a speculative fiction, because I've arrived at that from a speculative position. Speculative writers ask the question, "What if?" And so I ask a series of what if questions. What if our evolutionary journey has been influenced by outside? That's an old question. But I went from there to ask, what if the reason for that was these the outside influence to create us to be like them? In other words, to fashion us in their image. There was a purpose behind the interference that they had in our journey, our evolutionary journey, uh, because they seek to have someone, some other people in this cold universe in which to establish a relationship with. So that's the speculative part of it. And the other third what if question is, what if they arrive uh, at a time in our history when that they can't have that relationship in the Bronze Age, early Bronze Age, and what do they do about it? So that's part of the story as well.
Yeah.
Um, there is a part of the story where these two cultures do connect.
Mhm.
Uh, It's not intentional, it's accidental. And the result of it is Ishka gives birth to a son.
Mm.
His father is from these people. Now, I can't go into all the reasons why this happens and how this happens, just accept that it does.
Exactly.
And
You'll have to read the book to find out.
yeah,
Yeah.
readers will find this out. So Ishka's goals change. She still wants to be leader, but the purpose of it now, not only to help her people, but to allow her son to follow her in the leadership. So she's building this for her people and for her son. So that's basically the framework of the story. The secondary protagonist comes from the atLan people, a woman named Hiri-Eta.
Mhm.
The atLan, in the story, the atLan arrived. What can they do with a world where there is some, cultures mostly primitive? They don't have the ability to interact with them. Um, they fall back on some contingencies. One is called the Genesis plan,
Now, your
and they
story,
can't.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, now go ahead.
No, I was saying your story blends historical elements with fictional storytelling. Tell us a little bit about working those aspects together.
Okay, um, the the historical elements in this. The atLan developed this Genesis plan. What they want to do is to solve their problem by working in a microcosm, bringing together a group of people and over a period of generations, working with them to develop their culture and technology to a point at which they are close to what the atLan are themselves. And then from this people that they worked on in isolation can then spread out among the whole world and bring that technology. And in time, bring the whole world up to the state in which the atLan want that to be. So um, that is what the Genesis plan is all about. Now you can read this as a story, and it's a story, a narrative, uh, and you can accept on that level. And if it is, that's fine. If that's all you want out of a story, good. But I think if people look below that, there's I guess what I'm trying to do is posit some things. The Genesis plan is flawed, and this is where I bring some subtly some historical uh, parts into this story. The problem with the Genesis plan is something, and readers may see this, and if they do, fine, is something that we've encountered in our past. What the atLan want to do is take um, people and recreate them culturally into their own culture. We've done this in the past, or tried to do this, and in our colonialist uh, um, workings with indigenous peoples,
Mm.
we've come from the point of view of being a superior culture, working with an inferior culture, and tried to wipe out their culture and implant ours on top of it. This is what the atLan are trying to do, and a reader who knows this history will say, this isn't going to work. This is a mistake. It's a
Yeah.
mistake we've made in our history. To believe that our own culture is in some way superior to another's culture. Our technology may have been, but not our culture.
Mm.
And from the indigenous point of view, our culture may not be superior, in their eyes, only different. And if they had a choice, they would probably pick and choose what they wanted from our culture and mesh it in with their own. But we've tried to wipe away their language, their culture, and implant our own in this place, and we've robbed them of their identity. This is what the atLan are planning to do. So a reader will look at that and say, "Oh, this is a mistake. We've been there before. We've done it." Um, this is a series. The atLan Chronicles is a series, and the mistake will become more apparent in subsequent books.
Wonderful. How many books are you planning for the series, or are they already written?
Um, the series has at least 5 books to it. I've written 4.
Wonderful.
I'm not working on the 5th one now. The second book, which is called The Rebellion of the Wolf, kind of tells what's going to happen in the title of the story. Yeah, there's a rebellion, and which surprises the atLan people. But I'm laying the groundwork in this novel. So that's one thing that I'm trying to point out from, there's a lesson from our own history that we can see.
Absolutely. Parallels for sure. Let me ask you, running out of time, but let me ask you quickly, have you envisioned this as a TV series or a series of films, perhaps?
Not really. It may be that,
Mhm.
but I've written it more as a book, as
A work
something
of
that,
literature. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Absolutely, but it's
literature.
certainly translatable to film. You've created quite a world, and Ishka's journey is quite epic. So I think it would be quite an interesting film for sure, or a series of films. Ken Jackson has written a gripping novel. It is called The Genesis Plan, The atLan Chronicles I. It is one of 5 planned books. The first 4 books have been written already. He's at work on book number 5. Once you read the first book, you're not going to want to stop. You want to get through all the rest of them as well and find out how this story ends. Ken, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Again, thank you for the opportunity.
Well, the pleasure is all mine. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.